Hello and welcome to the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your co-host Pat. Follow me at HattrickPat37. Joining with me as always is the two best fantasy football minds around. Brad the Dad. Follow him on Twitter at TatJones. And Josh the Boss with the tweets coming from at FFJoshHughes. If you like what you hear and want more hot takes, follow our show on Twitter at EmptyWagonPod. Find us on Facebook, Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. And on Instagram, Empty Wagon Podcast. Let's get this show rolling. And handing it over to your favorite football minds around, Brad and Josh.
What's going on, Josh?
Well, I made it out today. I made it out of the house. That's always good news, right?
Yep, we don't have to try to be dealing with Skype here.
Yeah, I just can't bend my leg. I'm still frustrated with that, but only 4.5 weeks left. Only 4.5 weeks.
Only 4 weeks. It's not that long. How you doing?
Oh, I'm here. I'm doing well.
For everybody who doesn't know, Pat partaked in some adult beverages last night.
I was good up until the mixed drinks, and then it all went downhill.
He's a little hungover. But it's okay because we're at his house. So
yeah,
what better way to do this than at 7 in after you're hungover?
Just so everybody knows, today on the show, we're going to be going over our wide receiver rankings. A little early. We'll see how great this goes.
Oh, it's going to go splendid.
Wide receivers are definitely my kryptonite when it comes to...
Yeah, I found, because there's so many of these guys that are so close together, I found a little difficulty ranking some of these guys. It was kind of tough.
Yep. But before that, Pat, if you want to lead us into our first segment.
Awesome. So, as always, first topic that we want to hit on today is reports and rumors and news going around the league. And today we're going to incorporate some other sports, but we'll talk about that after we get through the big stories around the NFL. So first off, Terrence Williams getting arrested.
I mean, I know he hasn't been too fantasy relevant the last couple of years, but he's pretty much all that's left from last year's receiving corps. Him and Cole Beasley are it.
The Beasles, yeah. So, I mean, this is good news for Allen Hurns and Michael Gallup.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some type of suspension following this.
And they cut Lucky Whitehead for less. So
we got a dog someone, okay? If you can't protect your dog, how are you going to protect your team?
Yeah, but they cut Lucky Whitehead, and what happened to him wasn't even his fault. Remember that?
Yeah.
I think Terrence Williams, who cares? I mean, it's good news for the other guys, like you said. But Terrence Williams, they were talking about doing this wide receiver by committee thing, and I'm even less interested now. So whatever. We'll see what happens. I think this just means Allen Hurns is going to be the number one guy.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that.
Right,
Very helpful insight by Brad.
Yep. And moving right along to Johnny Manziel signing a 2-year contract with the Tiger Cats.
So how do you watch Tiger Cat football? Does anybody know? Because I need to figure out how to watch Tiger Cat football.
I'm sure you can watch it online somehow.
Yeah, if anybody can tweet me to let me know how to watch Tiger Cat football is what I'm about this year.
So are you going to buy a Tiger Cat jersey?
I might. We'll see how much they are.
We know people in Korea, so we can get you one pretty cheap probably.
Oh, yeah.
So,
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Are you following the Tiger Cats on Twitter?
I will be.
Okay.
What if he doesn't start?
He's starting.
Yeah, well, so who did you compare him to earlier?
Oh, yeah, because you said his career in the NFL was done. I said, what about Warren Moon?
Yeah, so he compared Johnny Manziel to Warren Moon, guys. Just throwing that out
there.
They
both go to the CFL, and they come back and have great careers.
Okay, so
and play till they're 40.
Agree to disagree on that one.
We'll see when he's 40.
All right,
Johnny Manziel's saga continues, and Brad's loving every minute of it. Also around the sporting world, yesterday, Justify winning the Preakness in a absolutely terrible weather conditions. I don't know if you guys watched it, but visibility was about 100 feet. So glad I wasn't the one calling that. Not that I don't think I'll ever be able to call the Preakness or Kentucky Derby races, but Justify won by about a nose.
Well, you got to start somewhere. Pat, you don't know that you won't ever call a Preakness. We all got to start somewhere.
I mean, this was the second leg of the Triple Crown, so could have another Triple Crown winner.
We could. We'll see how he does at the Belmont. I really think it's going to depend on how sloppy that track is because the Derby and the Preakness are both really terrible weather days. So we'll see what happens. And our next news here is actually Josh's specialty. Celtics losing to the Cavs. So they 2-1 now in the series.
I loved it. I loved it so much. I'm just going to talk about this real quick because I know this isn't basketball, but the Cavs actually came out. They decided to play really well, which was awesome. But I think being a part of a home crowd, I still actually think the Celtics are going to win this series. Brad Stevens is an incredible coach. So I will give him all the credit in the world. He's way better than Ty Lue. Hands above whatever. So I don't even know that expression. But, yeah, he's way better.
Okay, good job. Talked about your LeBron. Let's move on.
He's the best player in the world.
Do you want to move on to other sports, or you just want to get right into those wide receiver rankings?
We can do the other sport you got on your mind here, Pat.
Okay, well, you should like this because Vegas Golden Knights are 1 win away from the Stanley Cup Finals.
Coming from nowhere. They're supposed to lose all year.
Do you know their odds of winning the Stanley Cup Finals at the beginning of the season was 500-1?
Yeah, should have put $15 on that.
Aren't they a brand new team? They're expansion team. Right?
This is their first year, and Kevin from The Office probably took those odds, and he's about to be a rich man.
If somebody gives you 500-1 on anything, you take those odds.
So wait, do they have any relevant players or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, they did a whole expansion draft. The NHL actually kind of got this one right. It's not like other teams where it's just like, congratulations, welcome to the league, good luck. They actually kind of handpicked different players from different teams based on what teams are willing to like kind of put into the expansion draft.
Yeah.
And then the Vegas Golden Knights pretty much took players from different teams.
That's cool, man. I mean, I don't know that much about hockey, but I do find that fascinating. Anytime an expansion team goes all the way to the finals and now they have a chance of winning it, that's incredible, man. I mean, I can't remember. I know I've seen some young teams do that. I remember the Jags went to the Super Bowl when they were still fairly young.
Not the Super Bowl.
No, they went to the AFC Championship, excuse me. And then the Marlins won in 97, and they were still fairly new as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I do know this happened before, but never a first team. This is cool, man. This is history.
Exactly. And it's a Vegas hockey team, so Brad's all on board.
Yep.
Okay, if these are going to be his takes all day, I don't know what I'm going to do with that.
I guess we're just going to have to roll into these wide receiver rankings.
Wasn't there a baseball player that got suspended for 80 games? Brad, you're a baseball guy.
Yeah, Robinson Cano got suspended for 80 games. And there'll be another baseball player who's probably going to get suspended because he got arrested for beating a woman and drunk driving.
Oh.
So the team's got him on administrative leave right now.
Oh, ad leave. Nothing wrong with that.
Nice. Way to cover that one up.
All right, well, I know Reuben Foster, his ex-girlfriend cleared him, said it didn't happen.
Yeah, we'll see how the league still handles that. Because even though Ray Rice's wife came in there and said, and they still said, no, I don't care.
Well, there was video evidence of that.
Yeah.
So good for you.
There was a police report on it, Greg Hardy.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. Well, Dallas will probably pick him up either way. So.
All right, Pat, you want to lead us into the actually get back on track here with some football?
I thoroughly enjoyed that segment of other sports. But, yeah, we can get back on track to these fantasy football relevant wide receiver rankings. So you guys ranked top 20 wide receivers. So now we're going to talk about them, talk about stats, fantasy relevance, and see how they can help your team this year. So our first one across the board, Antonio Brown.
I mean, it's Antonio Brown, right, Josh? I mean, he's number one. It seems like as long as Big Ben's healthy, he's an easy penciled in, start him every week. I don't care who he's going against, what defense. I don't care if Deion Sanders is in his prime covering him, you're still starting him.
Yeah, 163 targets last year, 1,533 yards, 9 touchdowns. He did have 4 fumbles, which I thought was weird, but he didn't have any that was lost. 22.2 points per game. He's, heads above heels, your number one PPR wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't think really you talk too much about Antonio Brown, but even with Big Ben talking about how he's more into football this year and going to play all year and 3 more years, it just solidifies Antonio Brown for a few more years. Yeah,
I love Antonio Brown. If he's there, I mean, he's right up there with the top tier running backs as far as, your PPR rankings. He's going to be a first rounder again this year. No surprise there. Incredible player.
And that's why he's number one across the board. Not much more to add to that, as you guys already pointed out. But the next one, Odell Beckham Jr. Brad had him at 2, Josh had him at 2, and I had him at 3. But he came in across our rankings overall at number 2.
Yep, Odell. I love Odell. Honestly, I like him more than Antonio Brown when I'm drafting. If they're both there, I'm probably taking Odell over Antonio Brown just because of personal preference. But I don't know really what you say about Odell. He was hurt last year. I know everybody's nervous about injuries. But other than that, never had a bad year.
He's just I understand he's a great player, but the guy can't get his head on straight. And then you look at the games that he did play. Antonio Brown still had more points per game, almost 4 points more per game than Odell did. I really like him a lot more, and I even like another guy above him a little bit. So I actually had him ranked third. Nuke, I had Nuke above him, but yeah, Odell, he's obviously a great player. He's going to be a guy who's going to help you win if you get him, but he's just not one of those guys that does it for me, mostly because I don't like what his head's doing.
Yep, that was technical error on my part there. Technically, we have DeAndre Hopkins at number 2 because Pat and Josh both have him at 2 and Odell at 3. So we can just roll in Nuke Hopkins and kind of compare the two. So with Nuke, Josh, I know you love Nuke. The thing that worries me about Nuke is that when they don't hyper-target him, he isn't the guy that he is. I mean, he was hyper-targeted last year once Deshaun Watson took over. Before that, and even last year, he was not good.
Well, the reason he wasn't good the year before was because Brock Osweiler was his quarterback. It's all Brock Osweiler. He's an awful quarterback. I know. I'm a Broncos fan. Been a Broncos fan for a few years. He's awful. Nuke, incredible. 174 targets. You got to remember, Deshaun Watson only played in 7 of those games. There's still 16 in the whole season. So it wasn't like it was just Deshaun Watson giving him all these targets right here. Like, what worried me is a lot of those were bad passes. I had a 55% catch rate, which isn't good. But 174 targets, that led the league. This guy is going to be hyper-targeted again, which puts him above Odell Beckham Jr. in my mind. 20.7 points per game, 13 touchdowns. I don't expect the touchdown number to stay that high, but I could still see him get 9, 10 touchdowns. And if Deshaun Watson's healthy, I mean, it's his potential is sky high. Nuke Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the NFL.
I think that catch rate will go up too because, like you said, that low catch rate, how many of those passes were just – I'm just going to put it within a 15-yard vicinity of this guy. Maybe he'll catch it.
Yeah, I remember that first game that Deshaun Watson came out there and played, and I think he targeted him like 15 times in that first game. He just like didn't have eyes for anyone else. It was crazy, but – I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you get when you have a player that's as talented as DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. Does it worry you at all that maybe Deshaun Watson gets some more time in the offense and starts spreading the ball around a little more? Becomes more efficient with his passes?
No, I think you recognize talent, right? So he's a smart guy. He's going to be a great quarterback. I understand this is his second year in the offense, but you recognize who your better players are. And Bill O'Brien knows that as well. And you get the ball in your better players' hands. That's why we've been talking about how we're all kind of lower on Lamar Miller. Is because what we saw out of Deontay Foreman last year made us think that he's going to be a better running back if he's healthy. And they're going to get him the ball the same way. So DeAndre Hopkins to me is going to be the guy who he's going to continue to be the number one guy there. You might have Will Fuller come in there and catch 3 catches for 2 touchdowns and 112 yards or whatever like he did last year, but DeAndre Hopkins is still the guy there.
All right, let's move on to number 4 in our rankings. This guy, Brad, you had him at 4, Josh, you had him at 4, and I put him at 6 overall. This is Keenan Allen.
Josh, you want to go ahead and hit up Keenan Allen here?
Like we said, we were ranking a lot of these guys, and when I looked at the numbers, I was really surprised that Keenan Allen was, this high on the list right here. 284 points in PPR last year, 17.8 points per game, 102 catches on 159 targets from Phillip Rivers. And it seemed weird because what was it, like the middle of the season last year, he kind of fell off and he didn't really do a lot, and then he picked it up again at the end. But he was one of the best wide receivers. He's a top 5 wide receiver last year.
Yeah, I think we've seen in his whole career, when he's healthy, he is a top receiver. The problem's been with him, he's missed a lot of time due to injuries. And they're not your normal injuries. Yeah, he had an ACL that one year after half a game. And then the year prior to that, it was, a spleen or something?
Oh.
It was a random, it really blew your mind on how he got hurt. So my thing with Keenan Allen is, like you said, 159 targets. Antonio Gates is gone. I know Hunter Henry's there, and everybody's going to say Hunter Henry's going to take a lot of stuff, but those touchdown numbers can go up. He only had 6 touchdowns last year. Antonio Gates was a red zone machine. So now that Phillip Rivers doesn't have eyes for Antonio Gates anymore because he can't, I mean, I like Keenan Allen's chances to jump up into those top 5 wide receivers.
Yeah, and I would even think that his touchdown numbers are going to go up. After 6 touchdowns last year, I'd be willing to bet he gets 8, 9 this year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. So, yeah, Keenan Allen, good for you. And he had a higher catch percentage than the first 3 guys we mentioned. It's 64%.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about he probably is the best quarterback out of those first 3 guys for the whole year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. But also, do you worry about double coverage at all? Because who's the other wide receiver that's commanding a top cornerback to cover them?
No, but I mean, even when we look at the rest of these guys, Antonio Brown, he's got Juju, but really Juju was good last year because Antonio Brown got hurt. That's when Juju came alive. Odell has Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard. Well, he had Brandon Marshall last year for
A couple
the
games.
same games.
Yeah.
Which really –
And Evan Ingram. DeAndre Hopkins has Will Fuller, who's going deep, and that's about it.
the 5th.
Yeah, the 5th.
He pleads the 5th.
Yeah. So Keenan Allen, I mean, they have other weapons there, and that's why I think a quarterback comes into play with looking defenses off, looking safeties off, and not just eyeballing. Because you'll see Eli play, and he will just stare at Odell the whole time, and he's going to Odell.
And honestly, I'm actually interested to see if Mike Williams is healthy this year, how that actually will help Keenan Allen. Because Mike Williams, he was drafted in the first round for a reason. The guy is an incredible talent. He was injured last year. He had back issues. But if he's healthy, I wouldn't be surprised that, Keenan Allen sees less coverage, less double coverage his way, because Mike Williams is going to demand a lot of attention.
Yeah. And other than Antonio Brown, Keenan Allen has the best probably running back of these top 4 we've had.
That's true as well.
Because Melvin Gordon's still there. Melvin Gordon's still going to draw attention.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, now we can get into number 5, Julio Jones. None of us agreed on these rankings. Brady had him at 5, I had him at 4, and Josh had him at 6. Let's go ahead and talk about Julio.
So, Josh, I can guess why you had him at 6, and that's because of the touchdown numbers.
Hate him.
Yeah, it was and he's from Alabama. But
no,
that's the reason.
No, it's inconsistency, really.
Yeah.
That's my issue with Julio Jones. Is he'll have that 270-yard game, and then he'll have that 50-yard game. That's my issue with him.
That's Alabama players.
Well, I'm not going to say that's Alabama players because Mark Ingram has had great games in the past.
Alabama wide receivers.
Yeah, Amari Cooper last year had a bad year. But Amari Cooper is more consistent. It's just that's the way Julio Jones plays. If you draft him, you got to understand you're going to have some dud weeks. That's why I would hire on another guy above him. But, I mean, the numbers are still there.
Yeah, my thing with Julio is I think the touchdown numbers will go up. I mean, he only had 3 touchdowns. And when if you double that touchdown number, you put him at 6, that jumps his fantasy production up a lot.
Yeah, I don't see him getting just 3 touchdowns again. I think that was a mistake. I remember one game where he could have had another one because he just dropped it right there at the end zone. I was watching that game. Julio, he only had a 60% catch rating. So 88 catches, it was a low for him. The yards are still there. They're always going to be there with Julio. But at 15.7 points per game, he was lower than anybody else that I had ranked above him. And that was mostly because, like you said, the touchdowns.
Yep.
I'm just not impressed with what he did last year and what he does on a year-to-year basis. I never draft Julio. I always avoid him.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of forgot to mention this when we were talking about Keenan Allen. But I think after your top 3, there's a definite tier break there. When you jump into Keenan Allen and then you go to Julio Jones. Because another thing with Julio Jones is injuries. He's always on the injury report. It always looks like he's limping around with it. He plays through a lot of it, but it seems like he's hurt a lot. And I think it's the way he plays with the contested catches and going up and trying to catch the balls when DB's on your back and stuff.
Do you think the addition of Calvin Ridley is going to help him, or do you think it probably won't have that much of an effect?
I don't think it'll have much of an effect. Because I think Matt Ryan and Julio have that good connection that Calvin Ridley's not going to take a lot of targets away. Calvin Ridley's probably going to take a lot of Taylor Gabriel. He might affect the Austin Hooper. I think Julio's still going to get his. He's the number 1 wide receiver. And we're talking top 5 wide receiver here.
To you.
Okay.
To you.
To the consensus.
Not to me.
To the consensus.
Yeah, well, you guys have fun with that consensus.
Well, I think Calvin Ridley has a chance to reignite some of those Rodney White days when he was there.
Let's easy.
I think that's a possibility.
Roddy White's was a great player. For those few years, let's not get too crazy here. Okay.
All right, let's move on to our number 6 wide receiver. I had him at 6. Pat and Josh both have him at 5. Michael Thomas. So my thing with Michael Thomas is that he's on New Orleans, and the way Drew Brees plays is Drew Brees makes the right pass. He's not going to force the ball into the wrong area. And they're going more to a run-first offense. They added stuff in the wide receiver core. I mean, they added
Traquan Smith?
No.
Well, they did add him in the draft.
They did.
Cameron Meredith.
That's what I'm looking for. They added Cam Meredith. Because Michael Thomas had no other wide receivers there last year.
Yeah, but
they got rid of Brandon Cooks in the offseason.
No, they still had Willie Snead.
And Kobe Fleener.
Which are both gone now. No, Willie Snead's still there. Isn't he?
No.
Yeah, he's gone. Oh, yeah, he plays for Baltimore now. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I don't know. Michael Thomas, to me, is still going to be a guy who's going to get his. He's gotten it 2 years in a row, even whenever Brandon Cooks was still there. Michael Thomas is still going to be the guy. 70% catch radius, or 70% catching of the targets that he's gotten, 1,245 yards. What hurt him was he only had 5 touchdowns, and I expect that number to go up. Drew Brees really got a feeling for Michael Thomas later in the year. I was an owner of Michael Thomas in our redraft league, and I was thoroughly impressed with him. And I normally avoid New Orleans receivers because, like you said, Drew Brees does spread the ball around. But I've seen 2 years of this now with Michael Thomas, and I like what I saw, and the numbers didn't lie. 16.2 points per game in PPR. He was a clear top 5 receiver for me.
In PPR, I think that's the key thing to say. If you're playing in standard scoring, Michael Thomas is not that valuable because he doesn't get what these other guys we're going to talk about get in usage rate. Because when you talk about not getting a catch, because there's a lot of games where he has maybe 10 catches but 70 yards and no touchdown.
Yeah.
In standard, that kills you almost.
Yeah. No, I agree. But for me, like, we talk PPR. That's what we do. Yep. We're in PPR leagues consistently. So for me, it was easy to put him above Julio Jones. And I know a lot of people are going to give me flack for that, but the numbers are there. And it was pretty clear to see to me. So that's why I got him up there.
One last thing with Michael Thomas. Do you think the Mark Ingram suspension helps, hurts, or does nothing to his value?
I don't think it's going to affect his value much. I mean, Alvin Kamara is still going to get used. I wouldn't be surprised if they have another guy that they're going to bring in to kind of take some of that pressure off Alvin Kamara. I think that's where the Mark Ingram suspension is really going to affect is what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. We thought that his value was going to go up a little bit. Sean Payton since come out and said he still doesn't want to use him that much, which I understand because he's such an incredible playmaker. You don't want to sit there and give him the ball 30 times a game. You want to keep him healthy. But Michael Thomas isn't going to be affected by that anything. If anything, it would be the addition of Cameron Meredith, like we talked about, that would affect his value. But Cameron Meredith is not as talented of a player as Michael Thomas is.
Okay. Pat, you got anything you want to add, Michael Thomas?
No, he's a great player. We can move along to our next wide receiver, A.J. Green. What's that ranking there? Number 8?
Yep.
We have a few number 8s, but the consensus was split down the middle. Brad, you had him at 7. I had him at number 8. And Josh, we had him at 9. So let's talk A.J. Green with the red-headed machine throwing him the ball.
The Red Rocket. I didn't care for A.J. Green's numbers last year. I understand that they're probably going to get better, but 75 catches on 144 targets, 52% catch rate. That's awful.
That's not good.
That's one of the worst out of all the guys that we've mentioned so far. He is the worst, and it's one of the worst on our list. 8 touchdowns? That helps out a lot. He lost 2 fumbles last year, but only 14.2 points per game. And you expect Andy Dalton to help him out this year? No. I think if anything, this is going to be the last year we see Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback.
I feel like you're throwing shots at redheads again.
I'm not.
I'm sensing a lot of redhead hate over here.
I don't understand why you guys do this. I thought Andy Dalton has always been an awful quarterback.
We're just talking the truth. You say the stuff. We make comments about what you say.
No, I love Wendy's.
Yeah. Okay. So redheaded males. We got it. Redheaded males. All right. But no, AJ Green. he's still the number one target there. They had a down year in Cincinnati last year. They were just a mess up and down. I think if they solidify who they want in the backfield with Joe Mixon, they can focus on the rest of the offense instead of doing what they did last year. I think Marvin Lewis is probably past his time there. He does just enough not to get fired, it seems like, every year.
So awful.
So, I mean, A.J. Green, he's getting up there in age. He's, 30? I think he's almost 30.
Yeah, he's 30.
30? So that's still plenty of time on a wide receiver, though, because Antonio Brown's 30. I don't know what to say about it. A.J. Green, it was a bad year last year, but he still had 8 touchdowns, still had 1,000 yards, like you said, 75 receptions, a 52% catch rate, which is bad. But then again, like you said, Andy Dalton, not the greatest quarterback.
Awful quarterback. You got to think, too, John Ross is going to be healthy this year. And I do think that hurts A.J. Green's value. We've already talked about how fast John Ross is. They're going to want to get a guy like that the ball. He is a talented playmaker, and they drafted him to be a talented playmaker. He was a top 10 pick. John Ross, if he's healthy this year, that's going to take away 144 targets. A.J. Green's not going to see that with a guy like John Ross on the field. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Do you guys disagree?
Sort of, because what you said with Will Fuller. I think John Ross is like a Will Fuller type player with less talent than Will Fuller, less size. Oh. John Ross is only going deep. Will Fuller can still catch a slant route and turn it into it. John Ross needs those Tyreek Hill deep plays. He needs to run past people and get wide open.
Don't you dare say he's like Tavon Austin, because he's better than that.
No, I'm not going to throw the Tavon Austin tag on him, but I'm just going to say that I don't know how well his route running is. He's a fast receiver who can go deep. Other than that, his routes are not that crisp when you watch him run routes.
Well, we'll see, because John Ross is going to hurt A.J. Green's value. I'm sticking by that. What do you got to say, Pat?
I'd say we can move along.
Okay.
To number 8. I think we spent enough time on A.J. Green, but I will say for those numbers being an off year, as we called it, that was pretty good numbers for an off year, and there's a reason he's still in the top 10, because he is A.J. Green.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to number 8, Davante Adams.
Yeah.
Brad, you had him kind of high at 11, and me and Josh had him at 7 overall.
So I'm going to say this is tier 3 for me on wide receivers jumping in right now. I don't like Davante Adams. I've never really liked Davante Adams. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers likes throwing him the ball that much, because a lot of Davante Adams' big numbers came when Aaron Rodgers was out last year.
Yeah, there was a guy in our Dynasty League called him Pineapple Head because of the concussions. I don't know. To me, 15.9 points per game. He had 10 touchdowns, and that was with an awful quarterback.
Yeah, who was
Brett Hundley.
Only looking at him in the end zone. And now you got Jimmy Graham there, which we all know all Jimmy Graham does is catch touchdowns. Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, you got Jordy Nelson's gone now. So who's lining up opposite Davante Adams with Randall Cobb? Randall Cobb's not nearly as talented as Jordy Nelson.
Maybe one of those 7 wide receivers they drafted.
Equanimous is going to be the guy. No, come on. All those guys, I mean, they're not going to sit there and take away from Davante Adams' value. I think with Jordy Nelson leaving, the addition of Jimmy Graham, I think, yes, his red zone numbers will go down. He's going to be targeted less in the red zone, but he's going to get more catches overall, which is what we're talking about. So, to me, Davante Adams is a clear-cut top 10 wide receiver. Yes, this might be a tier break. I'm not disagreeing with that at all, but why would you not want a guy who's got Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback? If he's the number one guy, I would take him just off that alone. Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about him being the best quarterback in the league. Why wouldn't you want his number one target?
Oh, I understand 100% with that. Well, Davante Adams, he doesn't play 16 games when the next couple guys we're going to talk about are probably going to be there every day. That does affect me when I'm coming up to draft. When I'm on, we're talking round 2 or 3 wide receivers here. If you're round 2 or 3 guy that goes down early in the year for 4 or 5 weeks, that could torpedo your season. You could shoot it through the floor.
So we're right now, let's just say Davante Adams and a guy that I had ranked pretty high still, Adam Thielen. He's on the board. You're taking Thielen over Adams?
Well, I don't have Thielen that high, no, but somebody else like a Doug Baldwin or even like a Larry Fitzgerald, I'm jumping them over him.
See, the Larry Fitzgerald thing, that's interesting to me. And the reason I took Davante Adams and I ranked him above Larry Fitzgerald strictly was because the quarterback much, much better. And Devontae Adams is younger. I understand Sam Bradford is a slant route king, and Larry Fitzgerald plays from the slot, which is why I still had Larry Fitzgerald in my top 10. But Devontae Adams is a younger – I'm not going to say he's not better than Larry Fitzgerald. He's a younger player who's faster, and he's got a way better quarterback.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff you're saying about Devontae Adams, though, the only reason I don't like it so much, we said the same things about Jordy Nelson the last couple of years, was Devontae Adams isn't going to take Jordy Nelson's work. Jordy Nelson's still the guy there. We said that. Last year we were saying that going into the draft. And Devontae Adams took it. So Aaron Rodgers is going to throw to who's open. I just worry that Devontae Adams isn't going to be open as much as he was last year or as much as Brett Hundley just like throwing him the ball.
Oh, he's going to be open. That old pineapple head will be open. Don't you worry about that. A soft nugget.
If he's on the field. All right, moving on to number 9 overall, Larry Fitzgerald. Just mentioned him. Brady had him at 8. I had him at 9. And Josh, you also had him at 8.
Oh, the ageless wonder.
I mean, I don't know what you say about Larry Fitzgerald. He is what he is. He's a 100-catch guy, 1,000 yards, and he'll get you 5+ touchdowns every year since he moved to the slot.
Old reliable.
And it doesn't matter who his quarterback is.
I love Larry Fitzgerald so much. He's such an incredible player, and he's been doing it for year in and year out. He's been doing it for a decade. Larry Fitzgerald belongs here. And
he's had probably the worst quarterbacks when you look at the list of people we've talked about so far.
And you're going to get good value when you draft him in the redraft league because people are going to look, oh, no, this is the year that he's washed up. And they think that every year. And every year he comes out and he surprises and he gets a lot of catches and he gets over 1,000 yards most of the time. So I love Larry Fitzgerald. And the fact that I'm ranking him here high, and I bet a lot of people are not going to be targeting him because they're going to see upside with other guys. But Larry Fitzgerald's going to be a guy who's going to come in and get you points, which is what you want, right?
Absolutely. Those hands don't age, and he has hands of gold. So.
Yeah, I don't think really much to say about Larry Fitzgerald.
Hall of Famer.
Like you said, he'll probably fall in a lot of drafts. I can't wait till ADPs come out, and you can see that he's probably going 5th round, 6th round. Wouldn't even surprise me.
And I'm going to take him.
Yeah, you're going to take him, and you'll be happy with him because you can plug him in probably as your wide receiver 2, but he's more likely your wide receiver 1 because you took Devontae Adams 2 rounds earlier. That was a shot.
Shots fired.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Devontae Adams, I like him.
Let's move on and round out our top 10 with Doug Baldwin. Brady had him at 9. I had him at 13, and Josh had him at 11.
So Doug Baldwin. I don't know why Doug Baldwin does what he does every year. It never looks good, and it is very streaky, to say it at least. So when we talk about Julio with one big game, Doug Baldwin will have a couple big games, and then he'll have games where he doesn't show up. But that's what the style of offense I think Seattle plays. With Russell Wilson running around, Doug Baldwin has to be the one to get open on the right side of the field when Russell Wilson's scrambling around.
Yeah, it's tough to like Doug Baldwin based on, the type of offense they run, but they don't have anybody else. I mean, Paul Richardson's gone. What is it? Amari Darbo might be the number 2 there now.
Sure.
Yeah, he was the
McKissick might have to move to wide receiver.
Smooches? Yeah, Smooches might be the right. I don't know. Doug Baldwin, he's their number 1 guy. He's inconsistent, like you said, but I mean, 75 catches on 116 targets. He still had under 1,000 yards though. His touchdowns are kind of what brought him up. But I'm not really impressed with Doug Baldwin and what he does. But he's their number 1 guy, and they're gonna have to throw the ball a lot more this year. I know they got Rashad Penny and they want to run it, but that defense is going to be just atrocious. It's going to be disgusting. So they're going to have to throw the ball to stay in games. And Doug Baldwin will be the beneficiary for that.
Moving right along then. Unless you guys want to add anything to the Doug Baldwin.
No one likes him. You just have to draft him. And it sucks.
That's pretty good analysis.
Yeah.
He's one of those players. His ADP will be way higher than Larry Fitzgerald, but at the end of the year, Larry Fitzgerald will probably be ranked higher than him.
We got a Seahawks truther who will take him off the board for us, and it'll be good because we won't have to mess with him anymore.
All right, moving on to number 11, Mike Evans. All right, Brady had him at 14. I had him at 11, and Joshua had him at 10. I am tired of waiting for Mike Evans to become Mike Evans. I'm just going to say that.
Mike Evans does this thing where he's inconsistent year to year. So his rookie year was awesome. right? He had all those touchdown numbers. He probably would have been Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for a guy named Odell Beckham coming out that same year.
Yeah, that'll hurt you.
His touchdown numbers are down. Mike Evans lives by his touchdowns. That's when you see him jump in the top 5 in wide receivers. So last year he had 71 catches, 1,000 yards, just barely, but he got it, and 5 touchdowns.
It counts.
So Jameis Winston being hurt last year, I think, hurt Mike Evans a lot.
Yeah. What we're looking at here is his talent, right? Upside. That's the reason we think he's going to be, where he's going to be in our top 15, our top 20. But the thing that you really have to take in consideration is how much Jameis Winston and him have, how long they've been together, and the chemistry that they have. But it is kind of concerning all of the new weapons that they have in Tampa Bay and how much that could take away from Mike Evans. You would think that would help him, but last year we didn't really see that. We saw where his catch percentage was 52%. He barely squeaked in 1,000 yards, like you said, 1,001. So it counts, but it's barely there. But still 136 targets. I have to feel like he's going to catch more passes with that kind of target ratio.
All right. Moving right along to number 12, Tyreek Hill.
Hate it.
So Brad, you had him at 12. I had him at 12. And Josh, you had him at 15. You're not a huge Tyreek Hill fan.
No, not at all.
So I have to be high on Tyreek Hill, right? Because I took Patrick Mahomes at number 9. So his wide receivers obviously have to do good if he's in the top 10. Tyreek Hill is a burner. He is fast. Like you talked about John Ross. You spent 5 minutes talking about John Ross. And Tyreek Hill's actually shown that he could do it.
Tyreek Hill also beats women, so.
Well, he's cleared of all charges. He never got suspended by the league. So
okay.
We'll take it.
Well, we'll see about that.
75 receptions last year. A 71% catch rate. 71%. That's the highest so far. I mean, granted, when Alex Smith was throwing the ball last year, he was wide open because he ran past defenders because for some reason, defenses didn't understand to put a safety over the top on his side of the field. He had 1,183 yards and 7 touchdowns.
One of those touchdowns shouldn't count because Dallas couldn't cover. Do you remember that when he caught the ball and then Dallas was just like, I don't know what to do.
They ran a punt offense kind of thing. And
oh, my gosh, that was just disgusting. No, the addition of Sammy Watkins is going to hurt Tyreek Hill.
I agree. That's why he fell down. He was top 5 wide receiver last year.
Yeah, but Sammy Watkins is going to hurt his value. And guess who's taking over the play calling duties again? Andy Reid.
Who loves to throw the ball, so he's going to throw the ball.
The Walrus is taking over the play calling duties with that Waffle House play sheet. And you know what? He's gonna sit there and hurt Tyreek Hill's value. This is common sense, guys. Why are we even talking about Tyreek Hill? He's awful. No.
Patrick Mahomes is going to throw the ball 42 times a game.
Oh, that's right. We forgot about this rookie freaking quarterback that he's going to have throwing the ball. So I'm sure his catch rate will go up, right? That's 71%. I'm sure that's going to stay high with this rookie quarterback. Come on, guys.
Sophomore quarterback. Moving on to 13.
He's a rookie.
We got Allen Robinson now in Chicago. Brad, he had him pretty high at number 10. And me and Josh have at 16. So, Brad, why is Allen Robinson at number 10 for you?
Yeah, explain yourself.
Changing offensive philosophy. The complete change in offensive philosophy. They had nobody there last year. They threw the ball under 10 times, multiple times last year. That's not going to happen again. You don't spend all this money on a free agent wide receiver, a first-round quarterback that you traded up to get, to not let them air the ball out.
You mean John Fisher didn't get it done over there?
Hey. You know, threw me off of that. John Fox. All right. Though he may have made it to a couple Super Bowls.
On accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
Strictly on accident.
In spite of his play calling on offense. I just see Allen Robinson's moving up. Allen Robinson, Josh, you've been all over Allen Robinson for the past, 2
That's
years
not
ago.
true.
2 years ago. You were all
2
over.
years ago, yeah. After he had that 1,400-yard season.
Yeah, with Blake Bortles throwing the ball. You can't tell me Mitchell Trubisky is worse than Blake Bortles.
He might. We don't know yet. We honestly don't know yet. He might be. And Allen Robinson, he was hurt all year last year. I understand he's the number 1 guy in Chicago, but to me, there were guys that we had ranked, that I had ranked above him, who have a better chance of being more successful with a better quarterback. Allen Robinson, to me, is a guy who, I don't know, and there's so many weapons in Chicago now. They have so many players there. I mean, they have the best tight end in the NFL, Trey Burton, and then you have those incredible running backs. You have a great play caller. I understand that, but Mitchell Trubisky, I haven't seen enough out of him to sit there and think Allen Robinson's going to be a top 15 receiver.
Okay, I mean, I can agree with that. But you said all those weapons, and you said a great tight end. Let's move on. Let's move on to our next guy. We have Julian Edelman next. I had him at 15. You and Pat both have him at 14. I think he has a pretty good tight end, right? And they have a lot of weapons in New England, don't they?
They have a good tight end when he's not on his dirt bike or quad or whatever he's doing in the offseason, and he's not breaking his back on the field. But yeah, they have the best tight end.
He's living life, okay?
And Julian Edelman, wasn't he hurt all year last year as well, too?
Yes.
And you had him ranked above Allen Robinson.
Yes. Because he's got something that Allen Robinson doesn't have.
What's that?
Mr. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty – I don't know if we need to have this conversation. Pat, maybe you want to back me up on that?
What does Tom Brady not do? Hyper-target one player.
Whenever he played 2 years ago, Julian Edelman was the 15th overall wide receiver in PPR. I moved him up to 14. Wow. Okay. So sorry about that. But there's less weapons in New England now, and they still have this guy named Tom Brady. So I don't know what other kind of argument I need to make here. Pat, back me up here. Back me up.
Yeah, I mean, Julian Edelman, he is a PPR machine. I mean, Tom Brady and Edelman, they go up to Montana and have these private workouts in the offseason. So
private workouts. Yeah. With the best quarterback in the NFL.
Edelman is one of the things we talked about earlier with Michael Thomas. If this isn't PPR, you're probably not even touching Julian Edelman because he's not going to get you touchdown numbers consistently. He's going to get catches. Julian Edelman is the PPR god kind of because he gets 10 catches for 60 yards, which is 16 points, and you love it. But if you're in a standard, you hate it, and you're throwing up when you get it.
That's fine, though. I'll take that in PPR. 16 points a game. Yeah, I could live with that.
So he's another person whose ADP probably will fall down, and you could probably get him late, and that's why I do like him.
I'm going to steal him.
But I like the upside Allen Robinson a lot better. Because I would probably cap Julian Edelman's touchdowns at probably 6 this year. Best case scenario, right? 6?
I'm looking at Mitch Trubisky, Tom Brady.
Yeah, and I'm looking at 6 touchdowns versus possibly 12 to 14.
You don't know that because you don't know what you're getting out of Mitch Trubisky.
And you don't know what you're getting out of Julian Edelman.
I know exactly.
He's a lot older, coming off a knee injury.
I know exactly what I'm getting out of Julian Edelman.
I think there is
knee injury.
There still is the question of the knee injury. But we'll move on. Maybe we'll get less heated with number 15. Adam Thielen. No, probably not, because our rankings are way off. Brad, you had him at 22. I had him at 10. Josh, you had him at 12.
I just really thought Pat was going to back me up more on the Julian Edelman thing.
I don't want to sound too biased. I love Julian Edelman. He is coming off injury. He has a better quarterback. We said what we need to say about him. Well, let's talk to the guy who wears the yellow gloves and catches all the balls, Adam Thielen.
He does catch a lot of balls.
Wow.
91 catches last year. But that was with your boys, Case Keenum.
And Sam Bradford.
And
that was also with Stephon Diggs missing games.
Yes, which he will still miss games because he always misses games.
But that's the thing. When Stephon Diggs is on the field, he is the better wide receiver out of the two. And that's why I put Stephon Diggs above him. 22 is probably too low. I did a change in my rankings really fast. 22 is probably way too low for me to say. I should have probably moved him up higher. I just didn't go through them all. Obviously, I like Adam Thielen probably over Golden Tate and some other players. So I probably should bump him up. I'll have to relook at these rankings. But I do like Stephon Diggs better than Adam Thielen.
For me, it was pretty clear cut. He was the guy when you look at the tape last year, his route running is so crisp. He finds a way to get open. He's not the fastest guy on the field. He's not the most talented guy on the field, but he gets open. And that's what quarterbacks care about. Kirk Cousins is one of those guys who tries to be safe with the ball, right? We've talked about this before. Like, he doesn't like throwing interceptions. Last year, he didn't take a lot of chances because his receivers were awful.
Who likes throwing interceptions as a quarterback?
Well, Brett Favre didn't mind. So
that's fair.
Apparently Jameis Winston doesn't mind. He's still an NFL quarterback. So
my thing with Adam Thielen, though, is I'm just going to go to one play last year, and we'll say why Stephon Diggs is the number 1 wide receiver. The play against the Saints. The game's on the line. Who do they draw the play up for? Stephon Diggs. That's who they drew the play up. When the game is on the line and they need a play, they drew it up for Stephon Diggs.
You're telling me their play they drew up actually included a cornerback taking a dive, and then he ran to the end zone.
That play was drawn up for them to get in field goal range and get out of bounds. He made a decision when the guy went for that to cut inside and go up for the touchdown.
Okay, so that's with the game on the line, yes. But we're not talking about sit there game-winning potential. We're talking about guys who are going to sit there and win your week. I don't care about if they're winning this is fantasy football. This isn't real football. I don't care if they're winning games in real life. You could be on the Cleveland Browns. If you're getting me 100 catches a year with 1,200 yards, I'm going to draft you. And that's what happened
weird
with Adam
you say
Thielen.
that.
Yeah, I don't have Jarvis Landry ranked. Yeah, that's fine. I'll defend that when we get to that point. But Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins is going to lock in on him when he sees this guy open week in, week out. He's going to lock onto him, and he's going to target him. This is the best group of receivers and the best defense that he's ever had. So I really like what Adam Thielen's going to be this year. I don't think that he's going to, reproduce the numbers that he had last year because the defense is better, the quarterback is going to be better, but I just easily see him still catching 80 passes and breaking that 1,000-yard mark.
Yeah. I think you guys both have him in that fringe wide receiver 1 range in a 12-team league. I'm more having him as a wide receiver 2. Probably closer to, if I do the re-rankings, probably a 15 or a 16, not a 22. That's where I see him at.
That's a fair assessment. I think we can move on to our next wide receiver, probably in that same tier, same division as Thielen, Golden Tate. We kind of agreed. Brad and myself had him at 17, and Josh had him at 13. He averaged 14 points a game last year. So
just all catches, dude. This guy was all catches.
Yep.
92 catches on 120 targets. Only 1,000 yards, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 92 catches, you expect a lot more than just 1,000 yards. But he got it done. I mean, he was a guy, I think he ended up finishing, 11th last year overall? Yeah. 11th, and then Marvin Jones was 12th, which was very surprising to me. I didn't know Marvin Jones finished that high whenever I looked at the numbers, but he did. And Golden Tate's a guy who's going to be your wide receiver too, and he's going to fall. He's going to be a guy who a lot of people aren't expecting because they're going to see the sexy names like Allen Robinson. They're going to see the Tyreek Hill names, the Julian Edelman name. Well, not the Julian Edelman names, but Adam Thielen will probably go above Golden Tate. Maybe T.Y. Hilton, Amari Cooper, stuff like that. So,
yeah, this is going to be the last wide receiver we talk about because we're kind of running along on the time. My thing with Golden Tate is, do you think Matt Patricia and LeGarrette Blount and your boy going there, do you think that affects him at all?
No, I don't think so because, Matt Stafford.
Who's your boy again for people that may not know?
Kerryon Johnson. Come on. Everybody knows Kerryon Johnson. It's my boy. That's crazy. We don't even need to talk about that. We know how much I love him.
No, we don't because it's wide receiver rankings and not rookie running backs. That probably won't have an impact.
I didn't bring it up.
But no, do you think the change in philosophy there, maybe Matthew Stafford doesn't throw the ball 45 times a game, maybe he drops it down similar to what Drew Brees did last year? Do you think that's going to negatively affect a guy who we said is all catches with Golden Tate?
You would like to think so, but the fact of the matter is that Matt Stafford is Matt Stafford, and he likes to air it out. We could sit there and say whatever we want to, but he's had a few different head coaches. Matt Patricia can come in there and want in one hand and poop in the other and see which one fills up first, for all I care. Matt Stafford's going to throw the ball, all right? Matt Stafford's going to throw the ball because that's what Matt Stafford does. Stat Mafford is going to air it out, and Golden Tate is going to catch all them passes.
All right. Well, he still is the number 1 receiver in Detroit, and I don't think change of philosophy will affect his numbers. But I think we can go ahead and wrap it up, especially since Brad's over here dying from Josh's excellent commentary and analysis of Golden Tate.
That's why I'm here, guys.
All right. Anything to add to the wide receiver rankings?
Nope. The wheels fell off this wagon a long time ago.
I think your guy, T.Y. Hilton, we didn't get a chance to talk about him. He could finish easily as a top 10 receiver if Andrew Luck is healthy.
If Luck's healthy.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
If Luck's healthy.
And Marvin Jones was ranked 12th overall last year. That was a fluke. It's not going to happen again.
Yep.
And Amari Cooper should be better.
Yep. And Pat, you want to send us off into the night?
Yeah, that was a great wide receiver rankings. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you guys did too. Thanks for listening, and hopefully you enjoyed it, got some laughs out of it. Big shout out to Blue Spade Productions for helping us out with all of our social media, our advertising, getting our name out there, and they do some great things. Josh, you want to talk about what they do over at Blue Spade Productions?
So they actually handle social media management, and they also end up making their own sounds, like their own beats, which is pretty cool because it's actually a family-owned business. You have one person who is a sound engineer and the other one is a music producer, but they handle all sorts of things, and they're a really great company. We hope that you guys can visit them on their website, or you can hit them up on Instagram and Twitter at Blue Spade Pro. Shout out to those guys, and we appreciate what you guys do.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. As always, this is Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast with Brad the Dad, Josh the Boss, and I'm over here, Pat, at HattrickPat37 for me, at Tack Jones for Brad, and at FF Josh Hughes for Josh. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Later.